Namaskar. This is Akhilesh Bhargav. Welcome to Tit-Bits on Business and Finance with me. It's our 14th day of India's 21-day mandated lockdown as we seek to battle and minimize the spread of this deadly coronavirus. With a large section of our economy, which is a non-essential segment as we would call it, which is that segment also which involves any kind of human touch being closed down, the daily lockdown is taking a huge toll on the Indian economy. It is estimated that India is suffering a daily loss of $5 billion by virtue of this lockdown. Already, many segments of the economy have suffered in a huge way. They include tourism, hospitality, travel, aviation, automobiles, education, financial services, real estate and construction, manufacturing goods, oil, gas, and energy. All of them have witnessed huge losses. But according to us, the worst sufferers are the daily wage laborers, the migrant laborers who depend on their daily wages for their daily livings. And in this, we would also include those small entrepreneurs who have suddenly witnessed the complete closure of their cash flows and earnings. At this point of time, the debate is whether Indian economy will witness a contraction this year or will it witness some kind of a minimum growth. We think that with this kind of a lockdown, India's economy this year should be witnessing a contraction, even though agencies like Moody's are saying that this year the Indian economy will witness a growth rate of a mere 2%, which is a 30-year low. The reality is that this is one of the worst economic crises that we are witnessing since independence. Even the 2008 crisis was not as bad because at that point of time, unlike now, supply was on. Workers had not been stopped from going to their factories. We were all working in our offices. The government finances at that time were much better. India had witnessed a period of growth and thus the balance sheets of corporates, the finances of corporates were also in a good shape. And most importantly, the financial sector at that point of time was much sound compared to what it is now. Thus, we are witnessing certainly a huge emergency. Let us look at what a few former RBI governors, men in their own wisdom, think about the present phase that we are passing through and what do they think are the measures to resolve it. Let's take Dr. Raghuram Rajan. Writing in his blog, he says that this is the greatest emergency that India is facing since independence and that we have entered this emergency phase at a time when our fiscal deficit has already been huge. And that, he points out, is unlike what it is in the case of Europe and US, because of which they have had an immediate announcement of stimulus packages. Dr. Rajan further says that it would be wrong to depend completely on the PMO to sort out this emergency crisis because according to him, the PMO is already overworked and because of that, it will come out with measures which are too late and too little. He thus suggests that the government must reach out to all those in the opposition who have had experience of dealing with these kind of situations and crises because that would be good for the country. According to Mr. Rajan, we need to now prioritize our spending on the poor. He says that the government will need to cut back and delay any kind of expenditure which is not essential or is not important. He also says that the money being transferred to the poor segments of society by way of direct benefit transfers will have to be increased because what is being given at the moment, according to him, is not enough. He says there are going to be lots of business closures. NPAs in the country, in the economy will shoot up and so will unemployment. In his opinion, if India increases its fiscal deficit spending, there will be a toll on the rupee. International investors, according to him, will lose confidence on the Indian economy because rising fiscal deficits always indicate worsening of government finances. He thinks they will lose confidence in the economy, which to a certain extent he is trying to hint is avoidable. He further says that it is because US and Europe do not have such fiscal deficit positions as we have. They have been able to initiate stimulus measures. We need to wait and watch what does India initiate as its measures. He, of course, is with the 21 lockdown that the government has put up because it is very apparent that is the best way to handle the spread of the virus. But After that, he thinks that the restart is going to be gradual. In other words, we are not going to see a lifting of the lockdown. We will only witness an easing of the lockdown. And that, he said, should start with all those industries and manufacturing which involve less of human touch, such that the infection would not spread. These are the views of Dr. Rajan as he writes in his blog. Dr. Urjit Patel, the former RBI governor, he has a different set of views. He recognizes the fact that India is going through an unprecedented crisis. It's an emergency situation, as Dr. Rajan says. But according to him, despite that, India needs to keep its public finances in a healthy situation. We cannot go in a risky situation such that our public finances deteriorate sharply, because according to him, in that case, India will witness yet another financial crisis which is highly avoidable and which will not be easy to battle. He, of course, understands that in case India comes up with a stimulus package, which we are yet to hear, fiscal deficit is going to go up. According to him, India already has a high fiscal deficit, and we cannot risk yet another significant increase in fiscal deficit, because by doing that, India's macro financials will deteriorate even sharply, which is not good again for the country in the long run. He thinks that if India comes up with a generous fiscal stimulus and also a generous monetary policy, if that is done, India's macro fundamentals will deteriorate such that there will be instability in the Indian economy. The economy's position or fundamentals will get unhealthy, which Dr. Urjit Patel, out of his conservative approach, thinks is highly avoidable. On the other hand, former RBI Governor Dr. Rajan, a very respected economist in his own standing, thinks that when it comes to a war situation, war finances demand that there are no principles of finance to be followed when it comes to war finance. Thus, when you are facing a war-like situation, all the prudent principles of financing don't really apply. If you look at the views of the three RBI governors, while Dr. Urjit Patel is on one extreme, where he cautions that fiscal deficit cannot be allowed to aggravate beyond a point, on the other hand, you have Dr. Rangarajan, who says that in a war-like situation, no principles of finance apply. In other words, fiscal deficit can be allowed to be aggravated to the extent needed in order to prevent any kind of a collapse in the economy. We see Dr. Rajan taking a mid path, which is do take a situation where fiscal deficit goes up, but exercise caution. And we think that is a prudent path to follow. In our opinion, it all depends on how long a lockdown is imposed on the economy. The longer the lockdown continues, the more the suffering in the economy, and the more it will cost us to bring the economy back into a normal situation. The longer the lockdown, the greater the adversity that our economy will see. In all this comes a question: how is this entire fiscal stimulus going to be funded by the government? This fiscal stimulus, which the three RBI governors talk about, how would it be funded? To us, it would be a combination of sorts. One would be borrowing by the government from the Reserve Bank of India. The second would be printing of currency. The third would be the government would come to some kind of a situation where all of us would have to contribute to the coffers of the government, some kind of a compulsory deposit scheme, in order to fund the efforts of the government to revive the economy and ensure that it doesn't suffer for very long and the adversities are also minimized. This is Akhilesh Bhargav signing off till we meet again. Namaskar.
Now be the first to know about the latest updates on our new news app. Go on your Android or iOS, search for HW News Network. Download our app, choose the language you prefer to get updates in, and be up to date with the latest news.
If you like this video, please share it, and we would love to hear your comments in the comments section down here. Also, please do like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter to get minute-to-minute news updates. For more such shows and videos, well, subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Now be the first to know about the latest updates on our new news app. Go on your Android or iOS, search for HW News Network. Download our app, Choose the language you prefer to get updates in and be up to date with the latest news.